Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you're from. Thank you so much for joining us today. Let's give it another maybe 1 or 2 minutes, then I think we will start. We have about 29 people joining us now. Right. So I think we can start first. We have about nearly 40 participants joining us so far. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Razi Hamza. I'm a research fellow under Global Neurosurgery, Harvard Global Neurosurgery Group. We are happy to welcome you today for our third Grand Round series on women in neurosurgery. I would like to invite Dr. Kipa to first give an opening speech, then I think we can start subsequently after. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Razi. And first, let me congratulate you, Razi, and Hodan for putting this important webinar together. You've worked hard at it, and it's come together beautifully. And I want to personally thank all the panelists who are with us today. You will learn more about them as they speak, but we have Yoko couldn't be with us in person because of the time difference, but Yoko Kato is a fellow neurosurgeon, and she is one of my inspirations for going into what global neurosurgery, global health. And then I've got my colleagues Gail and Nadia, who really have done a tremendous job in advancing not only the importance of women within neurosurgery, but also the global neurosurgical equities around the world. And we have our colleagues from Africa, Yemi Siraj and Kobile, fabulous role models for the up and coming generation. And then, of course, my colleague Camila, she's a nurse, a neurosurgery nurse. And the title of this webinar is not Women Neurosurgeons. It's Women in Global Neurosurgery. And it's a great way to remind ourselves that we need everybody. And the neurosurgical care is a teamwork. So I'm so delighted that we can have this. I'm just touched to see you all. And I'm going to turn it over to Razi and Hodan, and over to you.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Kipa, for the introduction. So I'll turn over the introduction for the first speaker to Hodan.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Thank you all for joining us today. I would like to introduce our first speaker, Dr. Yoko Kato. She's a neurosurgeon from Japan, and she completed her neurosurgical residency in HI Medical University. She's among one of the first few female neurosurgeons in Japan, and she became the first to be appointed as a professor in an academic institution. Dr. Yoko, she became the chair of the Department of Neurosurgery at Fujita Health University, and she currently holds as the assistant director of of Fujita Health University. Dr. Yoko Kato spent her entire life in service of neurosurgery. She's a strong supporter of women neurosurgery in developing countries. She has been mentoring neurosurgeons and educating female neurosurgeons throughout her career. So Dr. Yoko Kato could not be here with us today, so we will play her recording. Thank you all.
Yes,
session. So the strategies for female to achieve in neurosurgery: promote awareness that equality of sexes, promote training in neurosurgery such that women are the majority, and promote female leadership in academic positions, offer accommodation or higher salaries for women who works on academic workplace. Still in Japan, we have some gender differences. So we should make the small the differences in between the male and female. Fellowship, resident training for the female neurosurgeon. The majority, they choose pediatric and oncology is fine. So vascular is just 10%. Educators' perspective that increasing mental accessibility, increasing visibility of the female neurosurgery in professional advancement, work-life balance, and the social expectation by culture. Increasing mental accessibility that provide more targeted mentorship for women and sponsorship for leadership roles, awards, or speaking opportunities for female. So maybe the congress or a meeting can have the opportunity or select the female doctors for speakers or chairpersons. Increasing the visibility of the female in neurosurgery, promoting women neurosurgeons through social media, academic and professional advancement. Professional advancement, promoting more female neurosurgeons to serve as keynote speakers for lectures at major conferences and providing the financial and or institutional support for women to attend. Empowering the female to pursue the leadership or mentorship roles. Communication with male colleagues for their collaborative endeavors. Work-life balance and social expectations in the culture. The gender, the neutral policy, the men and the women, both be the given time for parental leave. So empowering the qualities in the human prior to be a neurosurgeon. So this is very important things as a human, how important before the becoming a neurosurgeon. So deepening self-awareness, the becoming a better influencer, and leading with the honesty and improving the coaching skills, the developing emotional intelligence. 7, ethical issues of which neurosurgeons must be aware. Accountability of the physicians and the surgeons to the individual, the patient, financial incentives and motivations, and matters of leadership and conflicting interests. Preservation of the patient autonomy, information exchange and communication, electronic health record and the data security, the use and misuse of big data and protection of prerogatives of surgeons and patients. Top 10 things patients should look for in a neurosurgeon. Subspecialized training, a collaborative team, excellent outcomes, conservative approach, commitment to shared the decision making, lifelong learner, willingness to discuss alternative approaches, honesty, personalized approach, and unrushed manner. So this is a slide, the very famous professor of the neurosurgery, Henry Marsh from England. He said, "Do no harm, stories of life, death, and brain surgery." So he is the father of the ethical dilemma and provides the concept of do no harm in such case of a hopeless care in neurosurgery. So do no harm, he emphasized for us. So this is another neurosurgeon from Sydney, Australia. He saved a patient, a 24 years pianist with a brain tumor, given 6 weeks to live. But after Professor Taylor surgery, the days later, he was back at the piano. The patient was very, very famous as a pianist. So this is my last slide. The characteristic of the female young neurosurgeon should be has a lot of spirit, and also be brave, and also the keep professional skill and self-awareness and the good teamwork, and good communication. So these things is very, very important for successful the future career. Thank you for your attention.
Leprosy Institute. We have a specific hospital for the indigenous people, and then we have a few
Thank you, Dr. Kato, for the video. Dr. Kato actually summarized the educator perspective when training a young neurosurgeon. She has been a huge advocate and in training, especially for female young neurosurgeons all over the world. So I will give introduction for me introduce our next speaker, Dr. Tango. So Dr. Nakube Tango is a pediatric neurosurgeon and lecturer in neurosurgery at the University of Cape Town. Dr. Tango research interests include neurosurgical research education and capacity building, along with understanding of how the brain responds to injury in a cellular level. Dr. Tango is also part of the Young African Neurosurgeon Forum, which is an organization that has been instrumental in conducting research and educational activities on the African continent. She's also a member of World Federation of Neurosurgeon, Young Neurosurgeon Forum, and currently the new edition of WFNS Global Neurosurgery Committee 2.0. Dr. Tango will talk about women in academic neurosurgery from an African perspective. The stage is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your kind introduction. I'm just going to share my slides. And this talk will just be me going through my journey in neurosurgery, and also just maybe touching on where the future could be in terms of promotion of women, and specifically in the field of neurosurgery. So I'm just going to start off with a bit of a background. So for those who don't know, I am from South Africa. So we're the southernest tip of Africa. And another point, let me just put this out. Another interesting point, which will also just echo in my talk, which I think is quite important, is that our country is a new democracy. So I am part of the generation which were the first to actually be able to grow up in a democratic South Africa. And this has implications on how our society promotes women. I'm a pediatric neurosurgeon. I work at the University of Cape Town, and I'm an aspiring academic neurosurgeon because academic neurosurgeons aren't built overnight, and so much more academic female women neurosurgeons actually need a whole society in order to ensure that they have a successful career and that they're promoted at each turn. I'm also a lecturer, as we said, in neurosurgery at the University of Cape Town. I'm privileged to work in this unit, which is one of the top in Africa. So I was also asked to just share a bit about my training and my journey in neurosurgery. So to just start off, within South Africa, you first have to go through medical school training, which is 6 years. So after we've passed our matric, we have to go through 6 years of training to become medical doctors. After that, we have to go 2 years in internship where you rotate through all the specialities and you're exposed so you can get a chance to choose which career path you want to take if you want to specialize. And then we do a year of community service. So already for a female, this is now 8 years before you are then recognized and can practice independently as a doctor. And if you want to specialize, this is only the beginning where you can now start to enter residency training. Our residency training, I'm currently at the University of Cape Town. I did my neurosurgical training there, and then I subspecialized within pediatric neurosurgery. And on my slide here at the top are 2 males, which have played a huge role in where I am today. Because as I mentioned, academic neurosurgeons aren't built overnight. You need to be in an environment that promotes women, which nurtures talent, and which gives you an opportunity to succeed. So at the top is Professor Figaji, who's my boss, head of clinical unit in pediatric neurosurgery, and the HOD, Professor Vegan. I'm sure these are familiar faces to both of you. And it's by no chance that I actually ended up becoming a pediatric neurosurgeon, because already early within my residency training, they took an interest in building my career, and pediatric neurosurgery ended up being a natural choice. And then within our clinical unit of pediatric neurosurgeons, we are privileged to also work with amazing scientists. And over there's Dr. Ursula Rolwink, who also plays a critical part in young African neurosurgeons as a neuroscientist. So she promotes research capacity. And then I've got Jill and Lisa. So indirectly, even though my boss, Professor Figaji, is male, he's also a feminist. And as I echo through these slides, I just need to highlight the role that men play in ensuring that women succeed in whatever career we choose, and specifically in academic neurosurgery. So as many of you know, so there's this landmark paper which was written by Claire, which is a team of women, including also Prof. Niger, the future chair of our organization, WFNS, where we looked at the history of African women in neurosurgery. And specifically, besides Northern Africa, which has the highest amount of female practicing neurosurgeons, South Africa comes 3rd on that list. And I just want to highlight why South Africa, because South Africa, as we said, is a new democracy. So when we're liberated from apartheid, previous races that were previously discriminated started being prioritized by the government. And also in that group, women empowerment became a central role within our country. So we as South Africa have a society of men and women actually who promote gender equity and celebrate women. And this can be highlighted in the fact that within South Africa, we have in August, a whole month that is dedicated to women, where women are promoted, their achievements are celebrated. And this has huge implications on younger females when they can see the role that women play in society and what they can achieve and strive for. The next thing is why we have the 3rd highest number of female neurosurgeons in Africa is that the process has to be intentional. It will not happen overnight. So we have labor laws that protect and prioritize women, meaning that if women fulfill the criteria, if you want to be a neurosurgeon and you do well in school and you do well in your interview, if there is a choice between a male and a female and you've done both well in the interview and scored the same mark, the labor law would actually promote that the woman gets hired. And this is very, very important, especially for when there's conscious bias where males and also females, when we start entering surgery, there is that almost bias, especially for young females, where you go into an interview panel and sneakily you might be asked, are you married, your plans for children, which is actually illegal in South Africa, because as soon as people realize that, then it could put you lower down, because then it's like, oh, okay, what's going to happen with our training if someone has to take maternity leave? So it's intentional and prioritizing women. So this is actually my last slide, where we can see how can Africa play a role in promoting neurosurgery, because we know it's not a process that happens overnight. And the first thing is protecting the girl child. And this is a perfect example. This is a story of a young girl that faced a lot of challenges, and a lot of women in Africa might find themselves in a similar situation. So this is Angela. who was a young girl and very early on in her career became pregnant by someone who was meant to educate her, a senior. At that point, her family will actually try to coerce her to actually give up school and be married off, because now she's pregnant. In African culture, if you're pregnant outside of marriage, you are actually, it's viewed as something that is shunned on and a shame to the family. So her father tried to marry her off, but her mother actually stood for her and fought for her to actually return to school. And now she has a future in terms of she wants to go to college and study nursing. So in order to promote women in academic neurosurgery, we need to protect the girl child and ensure that females on our continent have a right to education and an equal opportunity to grow. We need to increase representation within academic neurosurgery. So this is just stats that, 4.7% of females within North America hold first command leadership positions. In Africa, a lot of the head of departments are in Northern Africa. Currently in South Africa today, within neurosurgery, there is no female head of surgery. So we still have a long way to go. Another way we can do it is at a continental level. And as Young Neurosurgeons Forum, this is the chair, Ignatius Esseni, one of our priorities is promoting academic neurosurgery within the continent, but also promoting females and ensuring that there's adequate mentorship and training to ensure that they succeed in their career. Thank you so much. That will be it from me.
Thank you so much for sharing your experience. Really appreciate that. It's an enlightening experience to all of us. Hodan will
Thank you.
introduce our next speaker. Yes.
Thank you, Razi. Thank you, Dr. Tango, for mentioning some of the social and barriers that can keep women out of school, and for also mentioning how male neurosurgeons can be part of the solution and mentor young female neurosurgeons. Really appreciated your presentation. Next, I would like to introduce our third guest, Dr. Mesraj Bisuna. She is a neurosurgeon from Ethiopia at Zabur University. She has been a fellow graduate of College of Surgeons of East Africa, Central and South Africa. She has been involved in many different research activities throughout her career. Besides her surgical career, she is also part of outreach programs that support mentorship in women and working with other institutions for research. Welcome, Dr. Mesraj.
Thank you, Hodan, for your introduction. So I'd like to thank organizers of this webinar for giving me this great chance and also for inviting me to be part of this great grand round. So let me share my screen. So I am also going to give a brief talk about my experience of being a female neurosurgeon in Ethiopia. Sorry for the inconvenience.
You want me to help screen share, Dr. Bisuna?
Is it visible? Okay.
No.
So I showed interest towards surgery when I was doing my internship. During the first year of my service as a general practitioner, I was not able to practice surgery as required because the center I was working at was not a specialized center. So I had to change my working place to Addis Ababa University Hospital. There I was assigned to work as a general practitioner at one of the surgical outpatient departments, and the outpatient department officer assigned me to work at the neurosurgery clinic by chance. However, that opened for me a great chance and opportunity to be exposed to the variety of neurosurgical cases and to evaluate different neurosurgical patients and also go through the cases with all the neurosurgical staff. So that helped me to love the field a lot. And I was also having a privilege of assisting the residents since their number was small. I was assisting them with emergency procedures, and I even was allowed to operate on emergency boreholes sometimes, and I was so much fascinated. And the pace at which the patients responded to emergency decompressions were very impressive. So these all factors made me to decide to apply for the enrollment in neurosurgery residency program. So this is my side of the story, but on the other end, family members, friends, and even consultant seniors working at other departments were against the idea of me pursuing neurosurgery as a career. Their reason was that it is a male-dominated field and it's a career for males. However, their arguments and explanations was not that easy to omit, and I had to question and reconsider my thoughts and decision so many times before I decided to join neurosurgery training program. So the neurosurgery training program in Ethiopia is 5 years training program. Our batch consisted of 4 residents, 3 males and 1 female, and we used to rotate at 5 different university affiliated hospitals. And we used to work there with limited number of human resources and staff. And even though the task load that was shouldered by us was very high, we had committed and hardworking seniors and trainers in neurosurgery, which made our stay likable and lively. I am the second female neurosurgeon in the country, and the fact that there was a pioneer female neurosurgery resident during my residency helped me a lot. So it made it easier for me to face all the challenges encountered, discuss all the issues with her, and go ahead. Her name is Dr. Jordanos. She's my mentor and currently working at one of the university hospitals. So she has been a great resource for me throughout my journey in neurosurgery. So I think if you love what you do, if you have commitment and perseverance, you can achieve your goals and you can accomplish your dreams. I think those are very important elements. However, I have to admit that there has been flaws in my life balancing skill. I cannot say I am challenged that much because I was single by then and I was living with my families, and my family members were very understanding of the busy lifestyle of a neurosurgeon here, and they were very supportive in every step and journey of being a neurosurgeon. So after I finished my residency, I went to one of the university hospitals in the countryside to work as an attending neurosurgeon for 3 months with a contractual agreement. Actually, this was permitted by the university I was employed at. And there was no neurosurgeon. I had to establish the setup with basic neurosurgical materials and resources. So in doing that and as being a setup establisher, there were so many challenges that were faced. Among this were being misunderstood and undermined, and I had to face attitude of different people. Despite the disputes and also rough moments, it was possible to make the setup functional for emergency and elective basic neurosurgical procedures. So after I completed the 3 months, I returned back to the capital city and started working as an attending neurosurgeon at Addis Ababa University Hospital. There I was assigned at the pediatrics unit of neurosurgical division. So my interest on the line of career development and specialization is doing my fellowship in functional neurosurgery, because I aspire to be a pioneer in establishment of functional neurosurgery in Ethiopia. So my experience of working in the pediatrics unit has helped me to realize how I can proceed to meet my dream. There are so many kids with cerebral palsy following in the pediatric neurology clinic, and I felt that I can at least manage their spasticity. And there are also patients with chronic pain, and I can do simple pain procedures. So what I mean is I can start with the simple procedures and build up afterwards to the sophisticated ones. So in the past 2 years, I've tried to apply for fellowship programs, but the COVID-19 pandemic has been a huge barrier to stepping forward. But I guess there's still hope now, and I will keep on trying. So neurosurgical training in Addis Ababa University is on the rise, training and graduating more neurosurgeons who are currently working in different parts of the country. So the current status of female neurosurgical residents has increased to 2. We have 1 junior and 1 senior female residents. And the picture of neurosurgery that was portrayed when I first joined neurosurgery has changed a lot. Back then it was a male-dominated field, and right now there are 3 female attending neurosurgeons here. So mentoring young trainees and new applicants will, I hope, encourage and help to have more female neurosurgeons. So the image of neurosurgery depicted as male-dominated field is being erased and will definitely improve in the near future, sooner. So what I can say is coaching medical students and organizing preceptorship programs will definitely improve the number of female neurosurgeons by increasing the number of new applicants. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bizani, for sharing your experience as a second female neurosurgeon in Ethiopia. I'm sure many young female and even male neurosurgeons are feeling inspired by this after listening to your talk. Thank you so much. So we move forward to our next speaker. So, all right. I think before I give an introduction, I would like to remind all our participants, we are actually halfway through our panelists today. Keep all the questions that you have towards the end of the talk today. We aim to have at least 30 minutes discussion towards the end of the talk webinar today. So you can ask any question that you have to our speaker. So Dr. Kipa mentioned during the introduction just now, global neurosurgery cannot only depend on neurosurgery. We need every aspect of this. So I would like to introduce Ms. Camila Acros, who is a nursing in neurosurgery department. She is a Fulbright visiting scholar at the program in global surgery and social change at Harvard Medical School. She is currently doing her PhD on the topic of pediatric hydrocephalus in Malawi and Sub-Saharan Africa, applying biosocial approach. Ms. Camila has 16 years of clinical experience from neurosurgical and neurovascular nursing at Oslo University Hospital. She is newly appointed nurse co-lead currently for WFNS Global Neurosurgery Committee 2.0. She is also a member of Women in Global Health Norway and a proud mother of 3 children. So I'd like to give the stage to Ms. Camila. Cheers.
Thank you, Ravi. You want me to pull up my presentation or will you do it?
I'll share. Let me share it now.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for that nice introduction, Razi. So about 17 years ago, I started doing clinical neurosurgical nursing, and I immediately fell in love with the discipline. As the years went by, my clinical skills improved. I became more confident, and I did my master's. I started my PhD, and I got increasingly involved in global neurosurgery, research, and advocacy. The aim of my 5-minute talk today is to address 3 key issues that I am passionately engaged in. 1, more women in global neurosurgery. 2, more nurses in global neurosurgery. And 3, to embrace the marvel of mentorship. Next slide, please. So to my first point, we need more women in global neurosurgery and in leadership positions. Statistics from the WHO, and this is from the source called Delivered by Women, Led by Men, a Gender and Equity Analysis of the Global Health and Social Workforce, They estimate that women make up 70% of the healthcare workforce on the ground, yet only include 25% in leadership positions. Related within our disciplines, there are different professions, and as we all know, neurosurgeons are predominantly men. So for nurses, this matrix is turned a little bit upside down, as nurses are in fact dominated by women, yet mostly men are in the top positions. One of the many aspects that I really love about the neurosurgery movement is that the disentanglement of pre-existing barriers within global health, and gender is one very important variable. Next slide, please. And this leads me to the second point: more women and more nurses in global neurosurgery. So many of you may not know this, but recently neurosurgical nursing was formally included into the World Federation of Neurosurgical Societies through the Global Neurosurgery Committee, which represents the highest organization level of the global neurosurgery movement. And I've been privileged to co-lead the nursing team together with my colleague Yi in Malaysia. I really applaud the inclusion of neurosurgical nursing into the Global Neurosurgery Committee. It is high time, and it is in fact a breaking through the glass ceiling moment for neurosurgical nursing as a profession. Although successful surgery is crucial for optimal patient outcome, we all know that in itself it is in fact insufficient. If the patient is not well looked after both before, during, and after surgery. And therefore, I really like the term neurosurgeon, because the term neurosurgical workforce is simply more inclusive, and it does not abolish professional boundaries and responsibilities and tasks. Slide, please.
Camilla?
I'm here again. Where did you guys lose me? My Wi-Fi is poor. I'm sorry. Yeah, I think
okay.
this is that. I'll start with this one. Yeah,
Okay.
sorry. This is my third and last point, which is a mentorship. So this is a picture of me and my excellent neurosurgical nurse colleague, Chancey, from Queen Elizabeth Central Hospital in Malawi. And to clarify, Chancey and I do not mentor each other in any way. We're just friends. I just happen to like the picture. But I have been very privileged and been mentored by some amazing both males and females in my career. We all, irrespective of profession and gender, need someone to guide us from time to time. And to increase gender equity in academia and within leadership positions, clinically and politically, say strong and solid mentorships are not only beneficial, but they are in fact a necessity. Because most likely you will feel lost at times. I know that I certainly do. Well, know this: someone has walked the path before you. Isn't that amazing? Therefore, I will end my talk by saying, all the young out there, reach out to someone for mentorship. You will need it, and potentially transformative. The older women out there, and I think I'm about to be included in that group, take on the young ones. Say yes, be inclusive, and provide opportunities for others. And for all the men out there, be willing to give up some of your power and privilege. I would say especially for the young, talented women in your neurosurgical community. Bottom line, embrace the marvels of mentorship. It is not only beneficial for yourself, it is very important, which you must never forget, for physicians and nurses, men and women alike, beneficial for our neurosurgical patients. Next, please. This is my last slide, and many of you know the ABCDE we use in medicine. So this is my private ABCDE, and by means am I always successful in achieving this, but as much I always try and strive to be authentic and brave, compassionate, diligent, and engaged. So thank you so much for listening, and thanks for your attention. I always love to meet with new people, so please feel free to reach out to me either during this presentation or afterwards, and this is my email address. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Camila, for this talk. As a med student, I have seen firsthand the care and the vital role of nursing, nurse practitioner, and physician assistant in caring for neurosurgical patients, and it's really vital for us to raise awareness and engage neurosurgical nursing in the Global Neurosurgery Committee. So thank you for this talk. Next, I will introduce our next speaker, Dr. Gail Rosé. She is a pioneer in global neurosurgery and has taken a leadership role in national and international level. Dr. Rosé is a clinical professor of neurosurgery at George Washington University School of Medicine. Her current clinical practice is focused on veterans, particularly traumatic brain injury. She has been involved in global neurosurgery all of her careers and has been mentoring female neurosurgeons across the world. And she has done a lot of research related to neurosurgical access in low and middle income countries. She is the current chair of WFNS World Health Organization liaison, and she's currently the executive board of WFNS Foundation. So let me welcome Professor Gail Rosé. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Hoden. What a great morning. It is just an absolute pleasure to be with all of you. I am honored beyond words to have the opportunity to be with all of you today. Can you see my slides there?
No. Do you want us to share your slides?
No. Let's try that again. Let's see here. I'm sharing screen. I'm sharing my desktop. I'm sharing that.
Yes, so we can see it now.
See them now?
Yes.
Good to go? Okay, great. Thank you. Well, in this 5-minute talk, I want to make just a couple points, and it really is a celebration of neurosurgical SPRACAR. And I'm going to leave that as a teaser for you, but I hope that 5 minutes from now, that will be your favorite new word. What I want to talk about are really these two things. Although there are many violent ways for underrepresented minorities to contribute to their societies, I want to focus on the peaceful pathways in my country, and I think this applies to every country, for underrepresented minorities to fully contribute. And this is through a sharing of our history. So reading, writing, knowing, sharing the history of those who came before is very important, as well as connections between and among members of that underrepresented minority community, and sharing those connections among themselves, their personal and professional connections between themselves and with the rest of the larger community. Now, my good friend Yoko was really ahead of her time throughout her entire career, but she understood the importance of celebrating this history as long ago as 2011, when she was the editor of the Asian Journal of Neurosurgery, and she asked Robert Spetzler, a giant in neurosurgery, to write a paper on the progress of women in neurosurgery. And this is from one of his very few single author papers in which Dr. Spetzler, at Yoko's request, wrote that the significant historical literature devoted to women in the field of neurosurgery suggests not that their contributions are less worthy than those of their male counterparts, as much as that their contributions have yet to be fully recounted. And if you just pause and think about your own knowledge of history, of your own country, of your own profession, it's those who write the history whose stories become the history. And so as a result of this, women in neurosurgery have taken on, in a very deliberate fashion, the publication of the history of women in neurosurgery. And this slide is courtesy of Eliana Kim, a former research assistant at the Harvard Program in Global Surgery and Social Change. But these are the papers published just in the last year on the history of women in neurosurgery. These have been published in Neurosurgical Focus. We've heard about that in the nice paper from our African colleagues already, which is cited here, as well as from Journal of Clinical Neuroscience, World Neurosurgery. But there are the history of what the pioneers have done. And in many cases, the pioneers are still actively working and contributing, is becoming known. And this is really important because it doesn't correct history so much as expand and complete history. And this is essential for us to move forward in our discipline. This is part of what we're working on in our ongoing studies of diversity in neurosurgery, not only looking at gender imbalance, but all of the imbalance that exists in American and in global neurosurgery today. And we will continue along both of these domains. And for this work, which continues, I'm very grateful to my very diverse group of colleagues who've helped publish this. So what are SPRACR? SPRACR is an Icelandic term for extraordinary or outstanding women. I recommend this book to all of you. It was just published last week. It's widely available. It's written by a Canadian who happens to be the First Lady of Iceland, married to a history professor. And what Eliza Reed describes in this book about SPRACR is what it is about Iceland that has had the World Economic Forum report that for the last 12 years, Iceland has ranked #1 on its list of countries closing the gap in equality between men and women. So if one looks at what is it that allows Iceland to be able to fully utilize the talents of all its population, the answer, she believes, is found in the country SPRACR, which is a word for extraordinary or outstanding women. So I am delighted to have been on this panel of neurosurgical SPRACR, nurses and physicians. I want to thank you, and I'd like you to stay tuned for events with Eliza Reed and the neurosurgical SPRACR. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Russo, for sharing your insights. And I actually learned a new word today. Thank you so much. So let me introduce our next speaker, Professor Dr. Najia Al-Abadi. She is currently the WFNS President-elect for 2021 to 2023. She is the head of Department of Neurosurgery at Sheikh Zayed International University Hospital at Rabat, Morocco. She is the Director of Stereotactic Brain Surgery at Abu Qasis International University of Health Sciences in Rabat, Morocco. She is the president of the Pan-Arab Association of Neurosurgical Society, treasurer of the Continental Association of African Neurosurgical Societies, Middle East Spine Society board member. She's the past president of the Mediterranean Association of Neurological Surgeons, past president of Moroccan Society of Neurosurgery. She was also the past chairman of WFNS Women in Neurosurgery Committee for 2013 to 2017. She has authored more than 100 scientific publications in international and national journals, as well as chapter in books of neurosurgery, and presented more than 500 lectures. So today she will be sharing her insights on women leaders in neurosurgery. Thank you so much.
So good evening, good morning, everybody. Thank you, Reza, for your kind introduction. And really, I will share my screen. And of course, I am very happy. I am very sorry. Okay, this is. It's okay. Okay, so first let me express my deep thanks and great congratulations to my dear friend Key as chairman of the global neurosurgery, and all the team that organizing this wonderful webinar, of course, Reza and Hodan, and especially given me the opportunity today to meet my most of our friends attending this webinar, especially in this field that we know of all of us. It's one of our favorite, of my favorite personally, and the favorite of all these women attending this webinar today. So I would like first to start by defining what leadership is in the dictionary that you see in this slide. I don't know about you, but those definitions remind me of some relationship I have had in my life, of course, as I am sure most of you. And we all, as neurosurgeons, have been or have had a mentor. I think it's one of the speakers talking about the mentoring is very important. We, of course, all understand what having a great leader means, as John Quincy said. If your action inspire others to dream more, learn more, to do more and become more, you are leader. And so if I had to define leading in a more personal way, I would say it is about giving, and my favorite quote with the one of James Keller, who wisely reminds us that a candle loses nothing of its light by lighting another candle. And female neurosurgeons held only 29% of the executive committee positions globally. The increase in female neurosurgeons should be achieved by enhancing institutionalized support, setting up networking platform, and identifying mentorship opportunities for prospective leaders and at organizational echelons. So all those statistics confirm that the increase of women in the medical field should be correlated to a rise of female in all specialties, especially in neurosurgery. The main question that we can ask ourselves as leaders is how to attract female to neurosurgery, and different way to promote female neurosurgeons to reach higher responsibility positions. To help address the lack of women in neurosurgery, we need to follow these four-step strategies, which is published by our giant, as Gail said, Spitzler in his white paper. And we need to first identify the barriers, then eliminate discriminatory practices in recruitment. And this will allow to promote female neurosurgeons to all the positions that they serve equally to men and develop female role models. So the first line of action of that strategy is to characterize the barriers that women can encounter to pursue their career in neurosurgery. The route to becoming a successful neurosurgeon is long, we know that, with many barriers for any candidate to overcome. The years of training are daunting and necessary and compromising. Patience for the field is required to stay in the course. Furthermore, practitioner must be devoted to lifelong learning, and this way is known to be expensive. Despite the important development of the cultural fields in developed countries as well as developing countries, although there is no study on that, discrimination against women still persists, as witnessed in these testimonies. Nancy, for example, Nancy Andrews, MD, PhD, the first woman appointed dean of the Duke University School of Medicine, has recounted that when she and her husband were introduced to the principal of the school, the man shook her hands and the hands of his husband and said, "You must be the man of the moment." And another anecdote that I have met during my practice: some male patients sometimes refuse to be operated by a woman. At the OR, one of them was absolutely astonished to know the surgeon is a lady. How come? Never. He underwent his transfemoidal surgery for adenoma in the third day by the same lady. He left the department and most grateful and thankful. So women have to fight to achieve equal rights in different area in Africa. I will not come back to this data about Africa. Kobil give us a nice talk about that. So, but as in other regions of the globe, a woman's status varies by country and region. Lifestyle, especially in the African context, remains the first barrier faced by women choosing neurosurgery. In some area, it's still common for a decision to be taken by male heads of households or male local chief and leaders. This could explain for the family context want bring up children care and her husband need. I think it's what worked for me was being that simple person they needed. They could count on the academic professional level, but as well as providing a personal support whenever needed. And finally, there are some take-home message. I would like to end this presentation by saying there is still a lot of to do. The place that women hold in neurosurgery is certainly changing in several parts of Africa. Many governments are now committed to providing equal education for girls and thereby reducing the existing gender gap. Women are taking charge of public health campaigns in many nations at both local and the national levels. There is an increasing number of women in government positions. Then they are now choosing medical careers and being represented in the surgical fields. African women are increasingly able to choose their own course in life. Don't feel guilty about your family. A responsibility, you don't have to be superwoman, be yourself And fighting for women is fighting for science, and therefore so many great minds are still silenced by the lack of opportunities. So many groundbreaking ideas are lost in the gender gap. So thank you very much for your attention and thank you again for your invitation for this wonderful webinar. Okay, maybe I will
Thank you.
I will stop sharing my presentation.
Thank you so much, Dr. Abidi, for your presentation and for all of the great tips that you gave us. We can learn a lot from you, and we appreciate your talk. Thank you so much. We had a lot of wonderful talks this morning and afternoon or evening, wherever you are. And now we will have the rest of the time we will spend asking questions to our panelists. So if you have a question, you can put it on the chat, or you can raise your hand and unmute yourself. We hope this to be an interactive session where we can share our experiences and learn from each other. Thank you all.
Before I start asking some questions that we have prepared, is there anyone who wants to ask question to our panelists? If yes, please raise your hand. No? Okay, so I'll start first. I'll open this to all the speakers. I think we heard multiple times that it's important to actually create more inclusive and supportive environment, especially in creating female neurosurgeon and leaders in leadership position. What do you think that we, especially male, or the community as a whole, should do in order to create this conducive environment to create more leaders in female neurosurgeon?
I'll jump in. And this may sound provocative, but I don't think it's necessarily our end goal to create more female leaders in neurosurgery. Our goal is to advance neurosurgery for the care of our patients. And all of us here believe that by fully engaging the entire population of talent, that's the way to do it. So, you know, there is a fairly substantial literature on how diversity in all its forms helps medicine, helps business, helps the political arena. There's really three steps to it if you look at the scholarship of diversity. The first is acceptance, just breaking those barriers. Like Professor El-Abadi was saying, just the notion that a female would be doing neurosurgical procedures on a patient, that in some places, and certainly in recent history, was groundbreaking. So the first thing is acceptance of all the underrepresented minorities. The second is assimilation, so that, you know, there isn't this sense of the other within the group. But what we're all going for is sort of the mature level of diversification, which is integration. And that is that everyone who has talent is welcomed, and that advances care for our patients, that's the end goal. And then the steps along the way are going to be recruiting the best and the brightest of every color, hue, persuasion to work toward the betterment of our patients. Anyway, those are my thoughts about it.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts, Dr. Russo. Really appreciate it. We have continue, hold on, sorry.
We have a few questions on the chat. The first one, I think this is a really good question for our end, but we can ask, what's the most important take-home message that you have for our participants today? Anyone can take this question. Thank you.
Okay, maybe I'll take it. The first thing is that we're striving towards a community within neurosurgery where everyone is welcome, and as Prof. Rousseau said, where the most talented and brightest have an equal opportunity to succeed. And the promotion of women shouldn't be looked at as if we're demoting men. That's the first thing. And I hope you are also motivated when you see the panel in terms of the diversity in age and the different stages we are in our career. And it's something that if you want to do neurosurgery, you can work hard at it and be given an opportunity to also succeed. And the most important message, maybe I'd say, is as females for us to break, which I didn't think we talked about, imposter syndrome. So in ourselves, we need to be comfortable in the environment we placed in, have a voice, not be shy to put our points across. And this generally occurs in an environment that supports you and where you feel heard and you feel that you can make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tang, for answering that question. I really agree with you that anyone can be smart or work hard, but if they don't have the right opportunities, they might not reach their goals. So creating opportunities for women, early mentorship and early exposure are some of the things that can help them kind of achieve those dreams. So thank you for answering that.
Okay.
Can I jump in and add something to that one?
Yes, please.
I think it's important to recognize that also women still are the ones who become pregnant and give birth to children. And I've been very privileged to have some leaders in my life who have been flexible and given me the opportunity to have a balance between family life and professional life, which has been very important to me. And for example, in surgery, we all know we start very, very early in the morning, right? We start at 7. So if you're not there at 7, and having to get 3 kids to school and kindergarten has been difficult sometimes with those early mornings. And I think it's important for leaders to maybe for a certain amount of time in a woman's career say, we want you to be here and we want you also to be able to take care of your family. So we'll adjust and make things work for you as much as we can. I think that's important.
May I have some comments?
Yes, please.
So it's just about the leadership is an action, not a position, and this is why we need the leaders, especially in our fields as women, because leaders have a passion for that they do. Their work is not just a job. It represents, or at least it should be represented of a fine in our daily regarding purpose and meaning for our life's work. If we can make this, so we will have, of course, transformed our job into a vocation. This is very important for female also and male. And leaders must never play favorites and must always treat those whom we lead with utmost respect. This is very important for, of course, female. And we need to show the example for the male, especially in our fields. If we did, of course, I am sure that we will have more and more female, but the female neurosurgeon, of course, but neurosurgeon female, the problem that we are encountering, that my dear girl highlighting, that the position, academic position, is very rare. Because the lack of time, I didn't show you some examples from USA, from Latin America, from Europe, Africa, Asia, etc., etc. This is why we need to fight in, because women is needed in neurosurgery. So we, as women, we are fighting in neurosurgery. So we are fighting for sciences, not only for gender. This is important, in my opinion, to highlight it. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to jump in and agree with Naja. Everything that has been studied about diversity points in one direction, and that is that the diversification of teams produces better results. So our goal is not just to get more people who look like us on that committee, more women, more Americans, more Vietnamese, whatever, you know, people of my color, my race, my religion. The goal is to lead humanity to make better decisions that benefit more people. And we know the scientists, the social scientists who have studied this in that sector, in the business sector, in the biologics sector, in the military sector, all have shown that if what you care about is making more money, you make more money if you have a diverse group. If what you care about is creating a stronger defense network for your nation, you do a better job at that if you have a diverse military. So our goal is excellence and diversification, particularly including women, because we're more than half the population, has to include women. So it's not only a justice issue, it's a progress and excellence issue.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yes, continue, Teresa. Yes,
sorry,
continue. I'm sorry.
To mobilize the word, but just last comment. Our duty as women in neurosurgery, as leaders, human being, is fight for girl education in our daily lives. And there is still a lot to do. And the place that women hold in neurosurgery is certainly changing in several parts of Africa, for example, but around the world. And many, that I said, I told in my talk, many governments are now committed to provide an equal education for girls, and of course, thereby reducing the existing gender gap. This is very important to highlight, and as I said before, and women are taking charge of public health. You see that in many countries, that the health campaigns in many nations of both local and national levels, and they are now choosing medical careers and being represented in surgical fields since maybe 2 decades. It's incredible. It's amazing that this notion of female neurosurgeon are still lake female and neurosurgery. It's not very important, but today I think we need to be, and I already said it, don't feel guilty about your family responsibility. And as my dear friend Suad, late Suad, she's, you know her very well. She was the woman, the chairman of the WFNS Women of Neurosurgery. And she always said in one of her talks about women in neurosurgery, you don't to be superwoman, be
Dr. Naja? Yeah, I think you were cut. You were just telling you don't have to be a superwoman, then internet connection gone. Yes, she's back. Dr. Naja, you are muted.
So I'm really I'm apologize for this inconvenience.
It's okay. You were saying that you don't have to be a superwoman, and then you were cut off. I think it's very interesting to hear the end of that
We need
sentence. Yeah.
to. Well, it's very important that it's. At least the pioneers, we tried. I think Gal here she's here and she can testify, because at the time when we start our neurosurgery, we were the superwoman, because we did a lot of time, a lot of things about family. In our work, we work more harder than the men, because you need to be, with your boss. Oh, she is very strong and she's so superwoman. So no, it's we need to be ourselves. In my opinion, it's very important now today.
I think it's very comforting to hear that. You don't have to be a superwoman. Thank you for reminding us all.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I think I see Dr. Alexandra Golby and Dr. Claire Karikazi as part of the guests. Do you want to add on something or join us in the talk?
Hi, everybody. I hope Claire will speak after me. I see so many faces that are familiar, and then also so many new faces, which is really wonderful. And I can tell you this is so inspiring to me that I'm joining you from vacation. So if you hear tumult behind, it's my family. And I just have to echo exactly what the themes have been, which is number one, that women have so much to add to neurosurgery. And we have to add to neurosurgery precisely because we don't necessarily fit the mold of what neurosurgeons were envisioned as. And I think, to me, it's very interesting to see the trajectory in the developing world, where neurosurgery is a relatively newer specialty compared to the US, where it took us about 80 years before people like Gail Rousseau started breaking the glass ceiling. You guys are actually way ahead of us on the curve. So that's really wonderful to see. The other thing I was going to say is just the importance of the number of voices. So when it's one or two people in, say, a national meeting of thousands, you really feel very marginalized. And I feel, having seen the progress that we've made, and the leadership, as Nadia said, it changes everything. When the numbers are there and the leadership is women, then you indirectly feel empowered to speak up. And by speaking up, you bring precisely those differences that allow us to work together with our colleagues to be sort of better than the sum of the parts. So that's really what I wanted to say. And go women, go neurosurgery, go global neurosurgery. The world is getting better. And then I joined a little late, and I'm sure you mentioned Paul Farmer, which is such a huge loss to the whole world. But I was thinking just of the movie, which is Bending the Arc, and that everybody here is bending the arc towards better care for our patients and generally better world. Yeah. So thank you for hosting this. Oh, and my final thing I would say is we need to figure out how to broadcast these things better. I am not a millennial, so I'm only extremely rarely on Twitter, but I happen to find it by coincidence. So maybe I don't know, maybe dinosaurs like me can help broadcast via other channels or just via our various associations. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you
much,
so
Alexandra. Nice to meet you, and I hope we are waiting for you.
Yeah, well, thank you, Sasha. I'll say the same thing. Dr. Golby has been a real leader in driving both gender equality and excellence in neurosurgery, having served as a Van Wagenen Fellow, one of the most prestigious fellowships in all of neurosurgery. And the fact that you're joining us from vacation is really an honor. It's humbling, but it shows how vital to us as individuals and to our profession a webinar like this is. So thank you.
Thank you all. So one of our participants had a question, and they wanted to know, how do you deal with like gender discrimination, especially within the neurosurgery program that you are training with, especially in third world countries where it might be harder.
There's an expression in English that says that sunlight is a great disinfectant. And by that is meant that things that are done, words that are said in private may be not as kind as they would be if they were in public. So I would suggest to anyone who is facing gender discrimination to use that connectivity that Dr. Elabadi has spoken about, that I've spoken about. There may be someone who feels empowered in private to say things that are unkind or even illegal. But if the president-elect of the WFNS is copied on some communication, I'm quite certain you're not going to receive a comment that is unkind or illegal. And that would apply if you copy me or some others as well. So this is where connections are really important. Personal and professional connections. Naja, would you agree?
Yeah, totally agree. And, you know, there is in Women in Wins in America, they said when win is in neurosurgery, the neurosurgery win. It means when the woman in neurosurgery, the woman is in neurosurgery, the neurosurgery win. I love this this sentence because it's a true. Neurosurgery needs a female, and this is I think this is one of the reason that I was a candidate for this election of president-elect. And of course, it needs a long career, because I start as a girl here and many others long time ago in the World Federation and the French-speaking society before, and Pan-Arab Society, and etc., etc. And this is, I think, today it's really a history. It's in our history is very important to have for the first time a woman as a president-elect. For me, it's not my victory; it's the victory of all the women in neurosurgery. And also the fact that we have also the first candidate from Africa. This is also give a special you know, advice that Africa, we need neurosurgery to develop more and more neurosurgery in Africa. We know that we did a lot in this way, but it's still I already said there's still a lot to do. And having I think a president-elect or president of WFNS as African and Arab is very important to change the things, the spirit of our WFNS. And because we need more, I'm not telling that it's not transparent now in the WFNS, surely, yes. But we need more transparency, more equity about gender, about in every discrimination, we need to stop it. And I think with this opportunity to be elected, we will, of course, work with all the women around the world, the leaders around the world, women in neurosurgery, of course, to stop many things. It's, in my opinion, it's wrong. And so we need to be, of course, more closer and closer. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Abadi. So for the next question is for Dr. Yanasraj and Dr. Tango. Someone on the comment asked, is it hard to do a fellowship, especially in African countries? Is it harder to get a fellowship or funding for a fellowship? Thank you.
I think if we try to, and if we push to apply for fellowship programs, now and then we will get the chance. It just needs a little push from our side.
Yeah, and then also to just be aware that there are fellowships, in Southern Africa, Northern Africa, and hopefully more around Africa. So it doesn't mean that you have to go very far from home to get subspecialty training. For example, in South Africa, within my unit in Cape Town, we have pediatric neurosurgery, neurocritical care, endovascular, and functional. So I think just going on a website, looking what's out there, deciding what works for you, and whether you want to be closer to home or whether you want to explore and also use some time to travel. It will really be up to the individual, but just doing your homework nice and early within your training. Once you've decided you find a field you're interested in, look for mentors and start really working your way towards getting into a subspecialty while you are still in your residency training. Hope that's helpful.
Thank you so much for answering that. That's really helpful. We are almost time. I have one more question from our chat, and I will ask Dr. Kibark. They were asking, besides neurosurgery, what other studies could you pursue, like MBH or other things that can help you make you a holistic applicant or a neurosurgeon leader?
Hold on, are we at the end? Am I wrapping up, or are we?
Yes, you are wrapping up, and then one more question that on the chat, they were asking, besides neurosurgical studies, are there any other things that you can study so that you can become a holistic leader in neurosurgery?
Well, I'm not the expert in that. I think Gail is sort of the expert on the research priorities and content on the gender equity and diversity. But I just, as I'm wrapping up, I want to first thank our staff, our team, Hodan, Radzi, and Eddie's there now. Eddie's our man in the background. He's so humble, but he's going to go into neurosurgery, everybody, just so you know. So is Hodan. They're going to be doing the match at the same time. And I want to say to the panelists, thank you so much for taking your valuable time and being a part of this panel. You are all Sprachers, okay? Fantastic women. And I want to just say this is a message to men. I don't want this webinar to finish with a message that the problem of female diversity in the neurosurgical field is for women to solve, right? Women have always been fabulous and contributed. As Robert Spetzler said, it just hasn't been recognized. And what I'm saying is, the issue is for men to change their attitudes and their behaviors. I will tell you, there was a situation when a woman was running for leadership. Naja, this was 10 years ago in Brazil. And there was a male candidate and a woman candidate for president. And I was among men who were talking about how they're going to vote on this. It was clear that some of the men was against the female candidate just because she was a woman. And so men have to take those conversations and say, no, we can't do that, gentlemen. Among ourselves, we have to say, this is no longer acceptable. I'm so proud of the fact that Nadia, you're the president-elect of WFNS. We've come a long way, but the men need to do a lot more. It's not up to women to fix the problem. It's up to men. And my final comment is about Paul Farmer. As you all know, Paul has passed away. He was our department chair. Our fellows and RAs, they're named after him. We are the Paul Farmer Global Surgery Fellows and Research Associates. And I think he's smiling today above, looking at what we're doing today, because we're not only addressing the unmet health needs of those who need neurosurgical care, but we're actually looking at structures, the medical anthropology aspects of why these disparities occur in the first place, and what are the things that are preventing us from achieving optimal outcomes. And gender equity is exactly what we need to be talking about today. So in honor of Paul, thank you everybody for joining today. Bye.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Key, for your kind word, and congratulations for all the team for this wonderful webinar. It's in my opinion, it's a good formula, because it's not take a lot of time, and 10 minutes you have to just send the message that you want, and not to taking a lot of time, especially in the not day on. And thank you for all the speakers and attendees, and of course organizing. So,
we're just beginning, ladies and gentlemen. This is just the start.
Thank you to all you Sprakar.
okay,
Yes.
Sprakars.
thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
In Bogota, I hope.
Thank you.
See you soon in Bogota. I hope that
Yes,
you can
see you
join
soon.
us in
Yeah,
Bogota.
yeah, hold on too.
Next
Yeah.
Very soon.
Congress. Yeah, it's
Thank you,
very
everyone.
important. Okay.